Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 7 Part 8 based on novel. So let's start. Lin Langen. Xiao Shan's body fell miserably from the night sky. His aura was weary, but his face was filled with an extremely furious expression. His Nirvana seal had only reached this level that was close to the Nirvana Golden ranking, after he had expended a great amount of effort and various tactics to absorb 10 for Yuan Nirvana stage experts' Nirvana seals. However, Lin Langen had currently snatched it all away. This caused all of his effort to completely vanish. Quite a number of experts in the surrounding night sky looked at each other. They had never expected that Xiao Shan would actually be defeated by Lin Langen. In fact, even the former's Nirvana seal was snatched away by the latter. Lin Langen, the both of us are now sworn enemies. Xiao Shan's body violently smashed onto the ground. That massive momentum caused him to spit out another mouthful of fresh blood. However, he ignored his injuries as he raised his head and roared out furiously. "You reap what you sow." Lin Langen laughed in a chilling manner. If he was to be defeated by Xiao Shan today, it was likely that not only would his Nirvana seal be stolen, but he would definitely use his fresh blood to complete the inheritance of the Zhuyan sect. The victor was the king and the loser was nothing more than a bandit. Lin Langen had seen quite a number of such events within this ancient battlefield during this 1 year. Currently, Xiao Shan was already seriously injured and was not a threat. However, Lin Langen did not show any signs of attacking again. Instead, his attention was directed towards Little Flame on the mountain top, who was undergoing a Nirvana tribulation. At this moment, the wild and violent Yuan power that had surrounded Little Flame's body had become substance-like. A wild violence spread and the ground within 1,000 feet had directly cracked apart because of dryness. All the surrounding trees turned withering yellow before they transformed into powder and scattered. Mo Ling and the others, who were originally seated around Little Flame to protect him, were eventually forced to move away because they were unable to endure that kind of wild and violent heat. They circulated their Yuan power and blocked themselves from the erosion of that special hot Yuan power. The fourth Nirvana tribulation was not considered weak. However, it clearly did not possess any fatal threat towards Little Flame. His body was so strong that even the golden body of those 4 Yuan Nirvana stage experts were unable to match up. Hence, as long as no accident occurred during the Nirvana tribulation, it was likely that Little Flame would have more than 70% chance of successfully enduring through it. His odds of success was definitely a level that most of the experts could not hope to attain. Have the experts from the Great Net Empire also been blocked? Lin Langen's eyes turned towards the space above the mountain top. All he could see was a dragnet that was formed by flickering purple-black chains. Those experts from the Great Net Empire were also a little startled when they saw this scene. After all, there were at least a couple of dozens of men from the Great Net Empire. Amongst them were 3 experts who had stepped into the 4 Yuan Nirvana stage. Even so, they were still unable to break the barrier that Little Martin had created. Such terrifying strength. Quite a number of people in the surrounding night sky looked at those people from the Great Net Empire, who had gone all out but still failed to approach that mountain peak. After which, they turned to look at the handsome young man, who was standing with his hands behind his back in midair. Traces of shock began to surge up their faces. Easily blocking 3 for Yuan Nirvana stage experts and dozens of other strong experts alone. This feat was likely something that only those peak experts who had stepped into the 5 Yuan Nirvana stage were able to accomplish. However, this exceptionally handsome young man had actually done it. Could it be that this fellow had also stepped into the 5 Yuan Nirvana stage? Quite a number of people felt cold sweat dripping all over their bodies when they thought of this. They looked at each other and there was a shock that they could not hide within their eyes. 5 Yuan Nirvana stage. There were definitely people currently in this core region who had reached this level. However, those who could reach this level were all, without exception, top existences even amongst the super empires. These people were basically demonic-like existences who were able to comfortably enter the Nirvana Golden ranking and catch the eyes of the super sects. However, this so-called low-rank empire actually had such a monster as well. The Great Yang Empire, why is it so strong? Quite a number of people were speechless. They were simply unable to imagine how a low-rank empire was able to produce so many monster-level beings all at once. Originally, they had thought that Lin Dong was already the most outstanding person within the Great Yang Empire. However, now that they had taken a closer look, they finally realized that there was another one, who had hidden himself. With this lineup, it was likely that they would not lose out even if they were to fight against those elite individuals from the super empires. Lin Dong's body was suspended in front of the mountain peak, while all the gazes in the sky was quietly filled with shock. His hand was holding the heavenly crocodile bone spear. That sharp icy coldness in his eyes swept all around him. He was aware that this big battle had definitely attracted quite a number of experts who were observing this spot. Currently, Little Flame was at a critical juncture as he was undergoing a nirvana tribulation and the consequences of him being disturbed was severe. Therefore, even though he defeated Shan, he did not chase after him. This was because he clearly understood what was more important. A sharp and stern aura spread out from within Lin Dong's body. It appeared to be just like a sharp sword that cut through the night sky. His blade-like eyes swept around but hardly anyone dared to look at him. After witnessing the shocking fighting strength that Lin Dong had unleashed earlier as well as the terrifying strength which little Martin had displayed, none of them dared to attack regardless of how much they coveted their nirvana seals and heavenly soul treasure. Boom boom. While Lin Dong was looking around him and deterring everyone, the experts from the Great Net Empire were sent flying miserably by the purple-black chain dragnet. The nirvana seals within their hands were all snatched by little Martin when they flew away. Within just a short few minutes, the interior of the dragnet only had 3-4 Yuan Nirvana stage experts bitterly enduring within it. The remaining people were all defeated by little Martin alone. At this moment, Shan once again rushed into the midair with a swaying body. However, his aura was already quite sluggish. Clearly, he had sustained pretty severe injuries from Lin Dong earlier. His somewhat pale white face turned unusually green when he saw that the Great Net Empire had suffered such a terrible loss. However, he did not dare to attack again. He was aware that with his current condition, it was impossible for him to match up to Lin Dong. The end result would be the same even if he was to forcefully charge forward again. Boom boom boom. 3 extremely low and deep sounds were emitted in the midair. After which, everyone saw 3 purple-black chains being swiftly flung onto the bodies of the 3 Great Net Empire experts with lightning-like speed, appearing just like poisonous snake coming out of hiding. Terrifying force surged out and directly slammed at the 3 of them until they spat out blood and flew backwards. At the same time, the Nirvana seals in their hands were also unceremoniously snatched away by little Martin. The 3 figures were eventually miserably caught by the people from the Great Net Empire. Only at this moment did the purple-black chain in little Martin's hands faded. His gaze gently swept around and a frightening hostility vaguely flashed across his handsome face. Regardless of how calm and indifferent little Martin usually acted, he ultimately possessed the heart of a celestial demon Martin. According to his character, it was likely that he would have already eaten all of these people. However, he worried that he would bring trouble to Lin Dong if he was to reveal his identity. That explains why he chose to put in the extra amount of effort. Who else wants to target us? Little Martin swept his slightly cold eyes over the Great Net Empire in a deterring demeanor. He slowly looked towards the surrounding night sky. A dark cold voice spread around him. The expressions of quite a number of people changed after his voice spread out. However, no one dared to reply. Even a group as powerful as the Great Net Empire was miserably defeated by Lin Dong's group. Hence, they did not wish to offend such ruthless characters. The peak was completely silent. Mo Ling's group on the mountain peak involuntarily extended their hands and violently rubbed their faces. They immediately let out a bitter laughter. They could not imagine that just Lin Dong and little Martin alone were actually able to deter the geniuses from various empires to the point that they did not even dare to utter anything. These 2 abnormal beings. Lin Dong quietly stood on top of his black-colored metal seal. He watched this quiet night sky and his expression relaxed a little. It seemed like after using the Great Net Empire to set an example, no one dared to step forward. This thought had just flashed across Lin Dong's heart when he suddenly raised his head. There was a mountain at that spot. A green-clad figure flashed and appeared. At the same time, an incomparably sinister pair of eyes were locked onto Lin Dong like an evil ghost. Moonlight scattered down from the sky and shone onto the somewhat distorted face, which appeared just like a ghost. That appearance was quite a shocking one. Lin Dong's eyes shrunk slightly as he looked at that figure. His hand, which was holding the heavenly crocodile bone spear, slowly tightened. An icy cold voice seeped out from between his teeth and spread apart with a killing intent that was difficult to suppress. Lin Langen, you are still alive. A green figure stood on the mountain top that was permeated by nightfall. That handsome face was pernicious with distortion. A kind of undescribable evil aura continuously scattered from within his body, causing the air around him to appear as though it had turned dark and chilly. That familiar face was naturally Lin Langen, who had many unresolved grudges with Lin Dong. Judging from his appearance, it seemed like this fellow managed to survive even after being seriously wounded by Lin Dong previously. He is really a tough bug to squash. Killing desire spread throughout Lin Dong's eyes. Although he had felt a killing intent towards quite a number of opponents during these many years, there was not a single one of them who surpassed what he felt towards Lin Langen. Lin Dong clearly understood in his heart that based on the grudge that he had with Lin Langen, only one of them could survive. If the one to survive was Lin Langen, given the latter's character, not only would Lin Dong fail to keep his life but even his father and his other family members in Great Yang Empire would not be spared as well. It was because of this that Lin Dong knew that he must not be allowed to live. This was because if he wanted his family to live peacefully in Great Yang Empire, he must eliminate this scourge. The densely cold killing desire that suddenly seeped out of Lin Dong immediately stirred the attention of quite a number of people. Immediately, numerous gazes followed the direction of his sight and turned. Finally, they looked at the green-cloaked figure standing on the mountain peak in the distance. From the looks of it, it seemed that another one of Lin Dong's opponent had appeared. There is something wrong with that fellow's aura. Little Martin appeared beside Lin Dong at this moment. He stared at the distant figure before suddenly frowning slightly and said, "Yeah." Lin Dong also nodded. He also sensed Lin Langen's aura appeared to have become much stranger compared to before. At the same time, he was also a lot more powerful. At the very least, even Lin Dong could sense a trace of a peculiar dangerous aura from him. Just what happened to him? Lin Dong knitted his brows slightly and whispered to himself. Although Lin Langen had become much stranger, Lin Dong was still not afraid of him. If it was not because he did not wish to leave Little Flame's side at this moment, it was likely that he would have taken the initiative to attack and probe this fellow. While Lin Dong was observing Lin Langen in the distance, the latter's sinister pair of eyes was also locked onto him. However, the strange thing was that this person, whose eyes were filled with viciousness, did not show any signs of attacking. His eyes slowly swept over Lin Dong and Little Martin. There was clearly fear flashing past the deepest region of his eyes. "Lin Dong, I will wait for you at the 100 Empire Mountain. We will completely settle our scores at that time." Acting beyond Lin Dong's expectations, Lin Langen's cold eyes focused on their group for a moment, gave a dense smile and drifted back in retreat. From the looks of it, he actually did not intend to attack at this moment. Lin Langen had clearly realized that currently, Lin Dong was no longer alone like he was before. A lineup that was quite powerful had already been gathered by his side. Even though Lin Langen was currently different, he was definitely unable to finish off Lin Dong by himself. Therefore, he could only withdraw unwillingly after weighing the situation. Of course, he believed that he would definitely have the chance to fight one-on-one against Lin Dong in the subsequent 100 Empire War. At that time, he would allow the latter to understand that the one who would have the last laugh would be him, Lin Langen. That guy. Lin Dong's eyes were slightly chilly as he watched Lin Langen disappear into the horizon. He was not afraid of the latter directly charging over and attacking. In this way, he could directly end this trouble tonight. In fact, he would definitely not allow Lin Langen to even have the slightest chance of survival. His aura has some of the fluctuation that originally belonged to that Yuan spirit within his body. Little Martin's purple-black eyes flickered as he suddenly uttered softly, "What do you mean?" Lin Dong asked in a surprised manner. I think that the current Lin Langen is no longer the Lin Langen that you know in the past. Little Martin voiced his opinion. The last time you caused Lin Langen to suffer extremely serious injuries. If he was an ordinary person, it is likely that he would have already died. However, he is currently living well and he has become more powerful instead. From what I could sense earlier, and if I guessed correctly, it is likely that the Yuan spirit that originally existed in his body should have already somewhat fused with Lin Langen's spirit. Fusion? Are you trying to say that the Yuan spirit has taken over Lin Langen's physical body? Lin Dong asked. His eyes flashed as he understood the hidden meaning behind little Martin's words. Snatching away a physical body is not so easy. As long as Lin Langen's spirit still exists, even that Yuan spirit would not be able to easily snatch his physical body. Of course, if Lin Langen took the initiative and did not resist, that Yuan spirit would be able to slowly erode his spirit and finally swallow him. However, the person who appeared again at that time would no longer purely be the Yuan spirit or Lin Langen. Instead, it will be a merger of the two. That new person would represent both Lin Langen and that Yuan spirit. At the same time, he would also possess both their memories and even their characters. Little Martin fondled his chin. He looked towards Lin Dong and said, from the looks of it, Lin Langen really hates you to the bone. In order to kill you, he would actually choose this method. He should also understand that once they fused, he would also lose full control. What a sickening guy. Lin Dong curled his lips. No wonder he felt that the current Lin Langen had become a lot stranger. Lin Langen had actually used this kind of extreme method of self-destruction in order to obtain strength. However, from the looks of the familiar viciousness in his eyes earlier, it was likely that even after the fusion, that vicious emotion would still propel him to view Lin Dong as a thorn in his side. Typically speaking, the drawbacks from fusion is extremely great. One's future achievement would at most reach the peak of nirvana stage. It is likely impossible for one to step into the mysterious life and death stage. Looks like that Yuan spirit also hates this and wants to bet with his life. Little Martin sighed. He was also a demonic spirit existence in the past and understood the feebleness of being in that condition. If it was not because Lin Dong had helped him obtain the samsara pill, it was likely that the current him would still be unable to escape from the body of a demonic spirit. You should be a little more careful the next time you see this fellow. This is because the current him is no longer purely just Lin Langen. If you attack, you will face the combined Lin Langen and that Yuan spirit, Little Martin reminded. Understood. Lin Dong nodded. His lowered eyes had a cold glint surging within it. The 100 Empire War was already approaching the climax and he must completely settle this score before the war was over. Otherwise, if Lin Langen was to catch the eye of a super sect, Lin Dong would lose his best opportunity. Furthermore, if Lin Langen entered a super sect, the position of his Lin family in the Lin clan would not reach the stage where Lin Dong would no longer need to fret. Therefore, he must completely settle the score between them the next time they met. Everyone in the night sky looked at Lin Langen, who possessed quite a strong aura, simply leaving in this manner. Quite a number of their eyes had a disappointed expression flashing past them. Clearly, they were hoping that someone could upset the situation and allow them to gain from the chaos. Bang bang. An extremely wild and violent Yuan power ripple spread apart on the mountain top in the night sky. That shocking heat expelled the dark coolness of the night, causing the Yuan power in quite a number of people to show signs of attempting an uprising. All of them hurriedly moved away. It seems like that person is about to successfully survive the tribulation. The eyes of some people flashed as they looked at the mountain peak with envy. Since they have also experienced the nirvana tribulation, they were naturally able to sense the kind of eruption that happened at the end. From the intensity of the nirvana tribulation, they were also able to guess that Little Flame was undergoing the fourth nirvana tribulation. If that was the case, the strength of Lin Dong's group would greatly soar once Little Flame successfully survived the tribulation. It would also become increasingly difficult to target their group. While everyone felt helpless because of this, a crimson light pillar suddenly shot towards the clouds. A glaring intense light tore through the darkness within a 50-kilometer radius. Roar? A tiger roar that shook the entire mountain forest suddenly sounded when the light pillar shot towards the sky. It carried a dense pressure as it spread in all directions. The powerful energy ripple contained within it caused the expressions of quite a number of people to undergo an intense change. Has he succeeded? A joy surged up Lin Dong's face at this moment. He knew that Little Flame had successfully endured the fourth Nirvana tribulation this time around. Therefore, they had successfully survived a somewhat perilous night. Let's go. Xiao Shan, who was a short distance away, had a sunken expression when he sensed this fluctuation. He did not dare to remain any longer. Clenching his teeth violently, he turned around and left. He understood that once Little Flame successfully enduring through the tribulation, another person with great fighting power would appear on Lin Dong's side. Hence, it was completely useless for them to remain here. If he wished to get back the terrible losses of tonight, he would have to think of other ways. Just the strength of their great net empire alone was currently unable to deal with Lin Dong's group. This group of people, who had come from a low-rank empire, had already become this powerful. Even a super empire like them could only retreat. However, it was a little too early to say anything now. The subsequent 100 Empire Mountain would be the true 100 Empire War. That place is the genuine place where one would face off against each other. Currently, no one could be certain who would have the last laugh. Even Lin Dong's group, a group of dazzling dark horses, might end up in a situation where things turned around. The bright red light pillar on the mountain peak that charged towards the sky gradually scattered. A moment later, it transformed into a thin ray of light and completely disappeared into the night sky. The light pillar disappeared entirely into Little Flame's muscular body. One could vaguely see a kind of deep golden light surging under his skin. The strength and intensity of the glow was several times stronger compared to the past. Little Flame's tightly shut eyes also suddenly opened at this moment. Intense golden light shot out as though it was an actual substance. It caused one to be afraid of looking at him. Boom! The golden light gradually became dim, before it finally calmed down. Little Flame finally stood up. His powerful body immediately caused Mo Ling's group, who were seated beside him, to experience an intense pressure. Immediately, they retreated a little while their expressions gently changed. It was not that they had never seen experts at 4 Yuan Nirvana stage. However, it was the first time they saw someone who possessed such a shocking aura, after just advancing to the 4 Yuan Nirvana stage. Have you succeeded? The only ones on the mountain peak who were unaffected by Little Flame's aura were likely Lin Dong, Little Martin, and Suru. Immediately, the three of them turned around and glanced at Little Flame. Yes. Little Flame parted his mouth and smiled at Lin Dong. His eyes contained an excitement that he could not hide. He was able to sense a powerful energy coursing through his body just like a furious dragon. If the current him was to meet Meng Lai from the Wind Cloud Empire again, it was likely that he would be able to completely cripple the latter in less than 5 blows, and he would definitely not have such a hard time like before. It has really been quite tense because of your tribulation, Little Martin lazily said. Little Flame gave a silly smile. After which, he raised his head and looked at the surrounding night sky. At that moment, his originally stiff face was suddenly filled with a fierce viciousness. He was just like an awakened and peerless ferocious tiger. Monstrous black chi surged out from within his body and actually transformed into an enormous black tiger figure. The fierce aura spread and covered the entire night sky. Those empires and experts that were still observing this place in the surrounding night sky had a drastic change in their expressions because of the fierce evil aura that covered this place. They could sense the powerful ripple that filled in it. Immediately, their faces changed drastically. This strength could be directly compared with some experts at the peak of the 4 Yuan Nirvana stage. Another ruthless character? Quite a number of people cursed harshly under their breaths. Originally, both Lin Dong and Little Martin was sufficient to deter them to the point whereby they did not dare to do anything. In the end, this fellow, who had just endured the 4th Nirvana tribulation, was actually this ferocious as well. Who would dare to offend such a group? Those people under the night sky, who were originally intending to target Lin Dong's group, completely abandoned this thought at this moment. They faced each other before they all turning around and slipped away. Lin Dong looked at the surrounding group of people that had scattered extremely quickly. There was no need to be overly afraid of these people who had the thoughts of a thief but lacked the courage to do so. Let's go. It is nearly morning. We should speed up and hurry to the 100 Empire Mountain as soon as possible. Since Little Flame had successfully endured the Nirvana tribulation, there was no need to linger here anymore. Lin Dong raised his head, looked at the sky before waving his hand and said, "Currently, almost all the empires and experts in this core region were all heading towards this 100 Empire Mountain." Lin Dong knew that he would be able to witness the true top experts within the countless number of empires in the eastern Shan region at that place. Perhaps their achievements could be considered decent amongst those who had taken a similar path into the core region. However, at the same time, there were also other outstanding individuals who had stood out in their respective paths. Ultimately, these geniuses, who had stood out after experiencing many challenges, would finally battle it out at the 100 Empire Mountain region. That battle over there would likely cause one's blood to turn boiling hot. A year's tough training would also be given the final confirmation at that place. One would also know whether one would become a dragon or a worm. News of their deeds spread rather quickly in this core region. Soon after the Great Net Empire was completely finished off by Lin Dong's group that night, news of this matter began to spread like the wind. Quite a great uproar was naturally stirred when the news spread out. Many people knew how powerful the Great Net Empire was, and they were definitely not ordinary individuals. Even so, they still ended up miserably defeated by Lin Dong's group. This involuntarily caused the other super empires, which originally were targeting Lin Dong's group, to restrain those thoughts. Quite a number of people also let out a harsh gasp when they heard the news. Unknowingly, the reputation of Lin Dong's group had become increasingly powerful. Currently, their numerous feats led many people to understand that they would definitely stand out within this 100 Empire War. In the previous 100 Empire Wars, those competitors who had come from a low-rank empire would definitely not be able to obtain a seat in the Nirvana Golden ranking. That area was always the territory of the super empires. However, they did not know if some special event would occur this time around. Lin Dong's group did not rest because of any situation during their subsequent journey. Hence, by the afternoon of the next day, their rushing figures had finally come to a slow stop. Their bodies moved and landed on a giant tree. After which, they looked in front of them with some fiery hot eyes. The area in front was a basin-like deserted forest. At one glance, one was unable to see the end. An extremely dense fierce aura spread from within the forest. At the middle of that desolated forest was an extremely majestic mountain peak. The top of the mountain was flat, appearing as though it had been hacked apart by a person. The mountain peak stretched to 1,000 yards and the desolated forest was extremely eye-catching. Moreover, one could vaguely feel as though there was a unique ripple being emitted from the top of the mountain. Is this the 100 Empire Mountain? Lin Dong was startled as he looked at the mountain peak which penetrated through the clouds. The fiery glow within his eyes became a little denser as he muttered to himself. Mo Ling, Su Ru, and the others by Lin Dong's side were also filled with excitement. After years of bitter training and competition, they have finally reached their final destination. Ha ha, 100 Empire Mountain, we are finally here. There were countless number of figures rushing over towards the midair of this desolated forest from all over the place. Their expressions were similar to Lin Dong's group as they landed in midair. After which, their eyes became wildly hot. Some people were unable to control the excitement in their hearts as they laughed out loud towards the sky. Everyone had put in a tremendous amount of effort in order to reach this place. They fought with others, they fought with the heavens, and they fought with themselves. All of them had squeezed their own potential dry in hopes of being able to reach this place. An increasing number of figures rushed over from every direction. Finally, they stopped outside of this desolated forest. In an instant, this entire place became unusually noisy. What should we do next? Lin Dong lifted his eyes to look at the mountain before he suddenly asked. Those people who have came here will enter that 100 Empire forest and engage in a final fight. However, in order to advance onto the 100 Empire Mountain, one must step into the Nirvana Golden ranking. Lin Dong dilated his eyes slightly upon hearing this reply. He was about to speak when he suddenly recovered. That voice did not belong to anyone from their group. Immediately, he turned around, only to see a figure standing against the wind, on a giant tree not far towards the left. That person was wearing blue clothes and her face was as white as snow. Her nose stood out while her eyebrows were sculpted like the moon. Although that figure dressed like a man, a feminine aura as well as her melon seed-like face completely revealed her identity as a lady. At this moment, this beautiful woman, who was wearing male clothes, was staring at Lin Dong's group with some interest in her eyes. "Thank you for the information." Lin Dong's eyes paused on this blue-clothed lady. Immediately, he cupped his hands together and laughed. However, some caution surged within Lin Dong's heart as he did so. This was because he was able to sense that this blue-clothed lady in front of his eyes was not a simple person. "Are you Lin Dong? I have heard about your group. It is unexpected that you have even finished off the great Net Empire. Ha ha, it had been many years since someone like your group has appeared amongst the low-rank empire." The blue-clothed lady laughed. Her manner was as though she was unaware of the wariness in Lin Dong's heart. "I am called Lin Langen and I come from the Celestial Empire." The lady magnanimously extended her snow-white hand towards Lin Dong in a graceful manner. That smile on her face was extremely alluring. However, just as she spoke, Lin Dong discovered that there was a shocked expression on Sukue's face. Lin Dong did not ask Sukue anything. This was because his eyes had also suddenly shrunk at this moment. He could see a flickering purple-gold-colored Nirvana seal on her snow-white hand. That was the sign that she had advanced into the Nirvana Golden ranking. This video will end here.